Hello, inventors and entrepreneurs. My name is Andrew Krause. I'm one of the co-founders here at Inventor Groups of America. Type your name into the chat if you're new and say, I am new. The chat's down there below. Also, for everyone new and returning, we'd love to hear your name and what state or country you're from. So go on over right now to the chat, open it up, and let us know. IGA was founded by Stephen Key and myself. Stephen, raise your hand there. Give him a wave. All right. Uh, to teach individuals how to best commercialize their product ideas, as well as strengthen and support inventor groups around the country. As you may know, Stephen and myself also run inventRight, where we coach inventors to license their products. At IGA, we have speakers on all sorts of topics that go beyond licensing. We're very proud of the communities we've built at both organizations, as well as the inventors we've helped educate. IGA also has a directory of local and regional inventor groups on our website. So if you're located near one, we highly encourage you to join your local inventors group. Please do not disclose anything that is confidential and is not already publicly available. This meeting is being recorded and will be harnessed on our website and YouTube channel soon. If you have any questions for the speaker, please type them into the chat as they come to you. You can type them during the presentation. We'll be doing a bunch of Q&A at the end, but as they come to you, you have a thought, go ahead, type it in if you want a question answered. A little bit about our guest speaker today before we get started. Philip Kaufman is a husband, father, and dedicated professional who thrives on solving complex challenges. With a background in graphic design and diverse industry experience, he has successfully navigated various creative fields from airbrushing custom cars, that sounds pretty cool, designing movie posters to overseeing creative as the director at a major beverage company. Philip's journey eventually led him to his career as the Senior Director of Marketing Technology. In this position, he bridges the gap between marketing, creative, and IT, leveraging his expertise to translate business needs into innovative technology and workflow solutions. Outside of his professional pursuits, he seeks flow states. I love flow states. I love that word, that statement in action sports such as mountain biking and surfing, and has an insatiable, I love that too, wanderlust for international travel. Philip remains committed to continuous learning, recently completed his MBA, and is also dedicated to expanding his linguistic skills by studying Spanish. Philip's presentation today is called Ideas to Income, Thriving as a Creative Person in Corporate America. Do you guys have a passion for ideas and products that solve problems? Do you want to be creative for a living? Our special guest, Philip Kaufman, will share his unique path to becoming the creative director at a major beverage company with an emphasis on takeaways like these for you. What were the major turning points in his development as a creative person? What decisions did he make that put him on the path to doing such engaging work? How is he pursuing an entrepreneurial path today? He will also peel back the curtain on what it's like being and directing a team at a well-known beverage brand. Special note, we're going to have a uh, breakout rooms at the end, so make sure to stick around so you can participate in that. So welcome, Philip.
Thank you, Andrew and Stephen, for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Hey, before we start, I, what's really interesting about uh, Philip, he's in the creative world, corporate America, coming up with ideas. He's making a living. I'm really curious too. How do you jump in the corporate world of creativity and survive? I know it's probably pretty competitive, but how do you keep that creativity alive? And I'm really excited about having Philip because I've gotten to know him a little bit over the last year or so, and he's doing so many different things. But I think all of our goals would be to somehow connect or understand how you're creative at the highest level. And I think that's what you're doing. So thank you so much for coming on today.
I appreciate you. Thank you. Want me to jump into sharing this presentation then?
Sounds
Sure.
good. Sounds
All
good. It
right.
looks very inspirational, guys. I took a quick look at it.
I appreciate it. So let's share. And the housekeeping is, we can see that, right?
Yep. It says
All right.
entrepreneurial journey.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So let's talk about me and my entrepreneurial journey. As they mentioned, Philip Kaufman, husband, full-time problem solver. That's how I consider myself. All three of those are full-time roles, and so you just have to find time when time is available, right? Um, if you look around and don't see what you want, make it yourself. I was at a presentation where Aaron gave this speech, and it really resonated with me because it's kind of how I grew up, building things, making things. And if I didn't find something I liked, I could make it myself. And to me, that really resonated. I grew up in a custom cabinet shop. My dad was a firefighter. My mom was a professional artist. And my dad, like most firefighters, had a side job. His side job was building cabinets and making things. So we grew up, learning woodworking, how to build things, how to restore things. Um, my mom, as a professional artist and interior designer, would go take her paintings and projects to art shows. And at these art shows, she would sell stuff and always had a little room for me as a kid to sell some of my creations, which I'll show here in a second. My dad always had a quote. He said, "How do you make $1 off 1 million people?" And he's like, "If you could do that, then you'd be a millionaire." And to me, that was always like, how do I do that? How do I figure out how to make $1 from 1 million people, or $1,000 from 1,000 people? But we'll get to that at some point. Um, so me outside of corporate life, seeking these flow states. I am a huge mountain biker. I love hurling myself down mountains at fast speeds to try to not think about anything else that's going on in my head. That really helps me just clear everything from a creative standpoint and focus on doing things perfect. If you don't do things perfect, you end up in the weeds. Similar to surfing. If you don't paddle right, if you don't stand up right, every action has to be perfect in order for you to get that wave and ride it to the best of its ability. So I love flow states. Designing is the other way that I get into flow state, which I don't get the opportunity to do as much, but my side projects allow me to do that, which is fun. So let's talk about the first time I started making money. I was probably middle school, and I saw that there was a need for gums and candies. I saw that packets of gum were selling for 50 cents to $1. I went to Costco, and at Costco, that pack of gum that whole box of them was $5. And I was like, well, $5 times 30 packets. And I'm like, simple math here is I could make, 15 to 30 bucks off of this at school. And so I started doing that and started making a little bit of income. And I was like, oh, well, supply and demand. This is an opportunity here. Um, so uh, I don't know if it would be allowed these days, but it was at that time. So I started going to art shows with my mom, and we started going to different festivals, and I saw that people were making gourds. They were taking these hollowed dried fruit, they were painting them and wood burning them, and selling them for outrageous prices. And I was like, that thing that cost me $3, I can put an hour's worth of time in and sell it for $40 to $60. I'm like, I bet I could do that. So I started doing it. And I started making money off of it at these art shows. And then people started commissioning me to do ones for their house for a certain thing that they were wanting. And it just turned into a nice little stream of income that I could make a little side money on. Then I started throwing ceramics in high school and was making pottery and same art shows. You go around, you start selling it, and it starts making more money. That led me to glass blowing. So glass blowing is really expensive. Those classes and those things are really, really expensive. So I found that people wanted really cool custom paperweights. So I would go to the glass shop, make like, 8 or 10 paperweights, and then go and sell them. And then that would fund the price of the glass blowing stuff. Um, One of the glass blowing instructor, I actually painted his custom car and traded for private lessons. So, there's always those fun things. Um, so, what did I learn out of those early days? Selling something you created is very addicting. I love it. It is such a rewarding thing to me. Seeing a finished product, I love standing back from something and looking at it going, yep, I did that. That's really cool. Uh, a well-crafted story, the elevator pitch. We talk about the elevator pitch all the time. This is real. If you can have that quick thing that helps you sell, then people love the story. You know, what's the people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. Simon Sinek quote. Um, don't be afraid to get your hands dirty. I was always the kind of person that would just jump in head first to try to learn something. And at early teenage years, making money was freedom. I bought gas for your car. That bought movie tickets to go places. Let's figure this out and have some fun, right? So high school experience. I'm going to bounce around a little bit, but I can kind of give you the full gamut of everything I've learned throughout the time. I think I was 17 and I bought my first car, which was a 67 Chevelle. It was kind of ugly at the time and it needed a paint job. I was obsessed with drawing flames. I was super into hot rod culture and custom cars and stuff. And I was like, I want to learn how to do flames on cars. So I went to a bunch of different local shops and I said, hey, would anybody teach me? Would anybody teach me? Would anybody teach me? And I just kept getting turned down. And I was like, well, this sucks. Like, I found at Palomar Community College in San Marcos, California, they have an ROP program for automotive refinishing. And so every Saturday, I would go to this ROP program and learn how to do body work, do paint. I learned how to weld. Um, I learned, you know, all kinds of different really cool techniques on finishing. And they had a paint booth, which you didn't have to rent, so which was really cool and made it a lot more cost effective. I think I went and got a quote for to paint my car at the time, and it was gonna be like $6,000 or $8,000. I was working at a pizza place for minimum wage, and I'm like, there's no way I'm gonna ever save that kind of money to paint this car. I have to learn how to do it myself. So in the meantime, while I was driving it in primer, I met a guy at the airbrush shop who painted custom cars, and he did airbrush, and he was really good at it. And I was like, hey, can you teach me how to do flames? And so he invited me to his shop, and he taught me how to do templating and layout, and just kind of like the tips and tricks, and was kind of like really the first mentor that taught me how to jump in and do something. So I finished my car. I took it to high school, and people started reaching out and seeing my car and saying, "Hey, who painted your car?" And I said, "I did." And they're like, "No way! You're a punk ass 18-year-old kid. Like, what are you doing painting cars?" And I said, "I like doing it, and can you pay me money to do it?" So, mind you, this is at the pre 2008. So Pimp My Ride was, heavy out there with, all these custom cars. Every sand rail company was out there. Every custom motorcycle company was out there when people had discretionary money before the financial crash. So, um, so I turned it into a business, and for 6 years, this paid for my school. This paid for my life. This paid for me to travel around the world, and got the opportunity to, shoot photography at some awesome places around the world, in Spain and Tahiti and Zermatt and Thailand, and you know, just had a super good time traveling around the world and shooting photos. So I didn't know that photos would turn into something later, but it was something I was enjoying doing, and it was a creative outlet for me that you could carry around a tiny little camera and create art. Uh, Never made any money from this kind of photography, but it was for fun. So what did I learn from that experience? Never skip steps, never cut corners. If you cut corners when you paint cars, that paint will come off and you will be redoing it because you're the one that basically owned it. Um, they spent a lot of money with you and you will have to redo it for free. So don't cut corners. Customer service with temperamental people. Sometimes some of the people had lots of money, and sometimes they're not the easiest people to deal with. So you have to learn how to temper some of these personalities and do customer service, do it well. I didn't know when the next paycheck was ever going to come in, so it taught me to be very frugal in how I spent money. So I would pay for my college, and I'd probably prepay as much as I possibly could, and then whatever I had left, I would say, okay, I have a couple grand. I'm going to go take this ticket, and I'm a backpack for $10 a day somewhere, and try to get out there. I also learned that I have a crazy work ethic. I don't sit still very much. Don't consume a lot of different media, but I like doing things for myself. I was going to college for graphic design and working. So I'd go Monday through Thursday, and then I would come back to the shop Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and I'd work 12, 14-hour days on a car on a project, and sometimes to the point where your fingertips were bleeding from wet sanding a car. It was some days that I don't want to ever go back to, but you learned a lot at the time. Always have a business card ready. This was easy self promotion. So who does that? Who does it? Here's a card. Here's a card. I do that. And it was just easy ways to getting your name out there. Um, so 2008 financial crisis happened. I graduated with college with a graphic design degree with no job prospects. And that economy just dried up overnight. I went from making really, really good money painting custom cars to nothing, basically overnight. And it took me a year. I had to move back with my parents. I spent a year looking for jobs, and I convinced my now wife to go to Europe for her graduation trip to propose to her in Rome. On the way back in the Madrid airport, I met the owner of a movie design studio in just randomly talking to some guy in line. He invited me up to the studio. I went up there, started chatting with him. He said, "I like your portfolio, but can you do what we do?" And so he gave me a task. He said, "Here, design for a movie, your favorite movie, design for your favorite TV show or book." And I think like a week and a half later, I came back with like 20 posters that I had designed. And he was like, "Wow, you're really prolific. And some of these are really good. Here's a paid internship for 3 months." So I packed up everything, moved to Culver City, and started riding my bicycle to work every day. And I don't know if you guys know, but Culver City is not the cheapest city in the world, especially as a young broke kid. My rent was $700 a month, and I was making $1,000 a month. My insurance was $100 a month, and I had $110 to eat on for a month. So thank God I was working 12, 14-hour days because they were feeding us at the studio. um, so that's how you get through it. So these are all stuff I've designed. It was an awesome opportunity. This is where I really learned how to shoot photography. So this is some of the photography that I shot. We would do things for American Horror Story. We would do things for Sons of Anarchy and all kinds of really cool shows. But the art directors would set up like a list of like, here's the 20 things that we want shot. Well, every single one required a lighting change or a position change or something to change. And we would do, every single one of those poses, and we'd shoot probably 10 different versions of it in like a 3 to 4 hour session. And so you'd have all of this photography that you'd then give to the art directors for them to build the key art comps that you saw on the uh, previous page. So this is where I learned how to do studio lighting, and did not know how to do this at the beginning, but we figure it out, right? Learn. Thank God for YouTube, right? Learn as anything on YouTube. Uh, what I learned from this position was the importance of good photography. If you have good photography, your end product looks great. Technical execution is key to a beautiful product. Those kind of go hand in hand. How to be creative when you have no more creativity left. When you are working that much and you have a just ton of, you know, demand on you, sometimes you don't have another idea. So how do you find ways to facilitate idea generation? Whether it's conversations with people, whether it's websites that you go to find inspiration, books you read, podcasts, like that you need to be able to find ways to get one more piece of art out, get one more idea out. And I feel like the movie poster design place definitely facilitated that for me. Um, Managing multiple projects on a global scale. We took on Turkish tourism campaign. We launched all of the Turkish tourism for 3 years, and we did all of these countries that I had no idea where they were on the map at the time. Now I do, but thank you, Georgia and Azerbaijan. But we produced all the outdoor for that, and that was pretty cool. Finishing work is more important than taking a creative stand. This is where losing the ego is kind of important as a creative. There's a difference between being a creative designer and being an artist. And one, you always have a boss who's paying you to do it. If you're an artist, you can do whatever you want. But as a designer, you always have somebody who's paying you to do it. So, in the middle of the movie design place, I dropped a screw into a squirrel cage in a fan. And I did the typical inventor thing where I was like, there's got to be a better way. And so my brother had just graduated with a mechanical engineering degree. And I was like, hey, bro, I have this idea. Can we make a rubber sleeve that goes on the end of your screwdriver to hold non-magnetic screws? And he's like, yeah, I think we could do that. So we turned some prototypes. We started casting some stuff in silicone. And we had it to the point where we figured out that we could do this. We made some calls to some friends. They put us in touch with a local manufacturer who did injection molding. And we launched on Kickstarter. So we launched and we got 1,000 backers and we raised almost 20 grand. And we produced and shipped out everything 1 week after we said we were going to, which for anybody who's ever backed a Kickstarter project, that's pretty damn good. I do want to thank Jim over at Screw Products. He was my first distributor. He really helped me learn how to set up pricing, and really took a chance on a young kid to put my products in his stores and get me out there. I met him at the National Hardware Show, so ran around showing people what I had, and somebody took a chance, which was awesome. Oh, it also got a trademark infringement, but we can talk about that in a minute. um, I launched the motor griddle. My friend said, "Hey, in California, you can't go off-roading without having your campfires in a closed metal box." And I said, "Well, let's make a closed metal box that we take and put on the back of our off-road adventure bikes." And so we made it out of cardboard, and then we had my brother draw it up in SolidWorks, and then we laser cut an initial prototype, and it worked. So we said, cool, let's go make a video. And we made a couple of videos, we put it on Kickstarter, and it flopped. The price was too high, the cost of shipping was too high. We did an initial run, and just to fulfill the people that were like super gung ho about it. So we did get some people out some stuff, but yeah, you learn, right? So what I learned is the importance of good research. Testing markets. Talk to people, make sure it's a product that people actually want. How to connect with social media audiences. This is ongoing. This is ever changing. This seems to always be a big topic of conversation as they continue to tweak how audiences are, how you get to audiences. Uh, the importance of a good trademark lawyer. I think this can't be understated. I had filed my own registered trademark for the name that I had previously, and the company said that they thought that their registered trademark was better than mine, and they had more money. So I couldn't fight it, and it stalled out a lot of the progress that I had, people wanting to put the screw holder into their stores. So I couldn't do anything at the time, and just kind of stalled out the project, which kind of sucked, but you learn as you go. I also would not be here public speaking if I had not done my initial Kickstarter videos. I learned how to film myself and look natural talking, because that's not an easy thing to do. I was definitely the person that was always behind the scenes. I always liked being behind the scenes. So, if had I not done that, I would not be here publicly speaking to you all. How to run a business selling a product. There's a lot of nuance to this, and it is not easy. Um, what I learned, the biggest takeaways though, is I love coming up with ideas. I love developing ideas. I love talking about my ideas. I don't like running a business. uh, Doing customer service at midnight and fulfilling orders and putting labels on packaging, not the funnest thing. Um, but if I could focus on, just coming up with the ideas and maybe getting a license, that would be amazing. So after the movie poster design place, I went to Makita Power Tools. So with my background in tools and workshops, I left there and pursued going into tools. I had tools. I had Makita since I was, a little kid, and always had great respect for the brand and the products, and they lasted forever. So I got the opportunity to come in as associate creative director and uh, help help them with their photography assets, help them redesign their website. So this is the first website I designed. I had no idea what I was doing, but you figure it out. Got to do some vehicle wraps. That was fun. And we also got to help them with their 100 years celebration. Um, so that was pretty cool to create a presentation timeline for how Makita came about, 100 years later. Um, I also learned what kind of manager I wanted to be. Um, I learned that earning the trust of your team is very key to being successful. I could have done a better job at this. I will accept that this was a shortcoming of mine. I think I was too little headstrong, trying to prove myself as a young manager, and a little more empathy would have gone a long way. How do you market to people who don't like marketing? These are tool guys, how do you get them to say, yeah, that tool is better than this tool? When you get them onto a battery platform, then uh, you're kind of stuck. How to navigate a very corporate structure. Makita was Japanese owned, and we were working out of the U.S. subsidiary. So you had a lot of complexity working with um, a team that was in charge of all of the assets, and when they would provide them to you, and how they would provide them to you, and that was interesting. Figuring out how to do your best in that, and then how to be creative in a non-creative environment. We were basically in a distribution center. And with sitting next to a printer, and it was loud and bangy and not aesthetically pleasing as a creative person, and we just had to push forward. That led me to uh, getting the role as creative director at Monster Energy. A year into being at Makita, Monster reached out to me and said, "Hey, we have a creative director role open. Do you want to interview for this position?" And I said, "Heck yeah! That sounds like a dream job for my background." Um, that uh, that took several interviews with all of the executive leadership, and landed into a team. And uh, so this is some of the photography that I shot during the time there. We got to do brand redesigns, we got to do logo designs, we got to do um, product design. I don't know if anybody's ever seen can printing in real life. Running 2,500 cans a minute is amazing to watch. How the registration lines up and is just impressive. So there's a couple YouTube videos out there. Watch can printing. That's something I would highly task you to do if you have not. So yeah, got to do amazing things. We implemented new systems for workflow, and I've had four roles now since I've been here. It's 9 years, and uh, I keep getting put into roles where I help solve problems, and I help the business move forward in a positive way by trying to use the creative problem solving, I guess would be the best way to say it. So my current role is marketing technology, and I get the opportunity to help roll out AI to everyone, which is super fun. Actually, tomorrow I start a Harvard Business School class called Competing in the Age of AI. So I get the chance to do that. So I see a hand up, CC.
Serena, do you want me to unmute her? And okay.
I thought we'd wait to the very
You
end.
want to do it
Yeah.
all the way in?
Yeah, we
Okay,
can
cool.
wait to the end, Philip. That's fine.
Perfect.
I think
Yeah,
we're almost there.
yeah, we're getting close.
Okay.
Um,
Thank you.
so, a Monster is an amazing place. Love working for the company. Culture is great. And we're continuing to push forward. What have I learned? Design for parts of the world I haven't been. How do you manage large teams of creative people? That's a full-time job. Creative people are amazing, but they can be creative in how they want to be managed. Hiring people, identifying key strengths and weaknesses. This is a full-time job. Like trying to build a team out that is working efficiently together, and trying to communicate towards a shared goal. Working with global teams. We worked. I'd get on calls in the morning with Europe, super early. And then at the end of the night, I would get on calls with China on my way home. So you had, managing time zones was always a unique challenge. Um, and one of the things I learned was, process creates stability. And then if you have good communication, that helps facilitate the understanding of what the goal is and what you're trying to do. During this time, COVID happened, and I decided that I wasn't commuting anymore and I should probably jump into an MBA program. And I spent 3 years doing that, one class at a time. And I think that I learned it quite a bit. Uh, Ask more questions. Now I know a little bit more about a lot of bit of things. And it helps me in my current role to say, okay, well, what about this? And how does this connect? And how does this connect? And what should we consider this other option? And that to me has been super beneficial. Build connections, networking. Be adaptable. Everything is always constantly changing. So if you can be adaptable, then you'll be successful. Now let's talk about some fun stuff. Idea generation. I have a passion for ideas and products that solve problems. This is a current product I am working on, and this one came about um, because I put in artificial turf in my backyard, and I have trees that drop leaves, and it sucks to rake it. So I kept dropping. The eucalyptus was the biggest challenge. It drops the little balls, and they get down into the turf, and you can't get them out. So I thought, I'm like, okay, well, maybe I could create a cone. Like, so that the left one is like my first prototype. It's like, okay, like, can this slide through? Okay, well, nope, that doesn't work. It gets caught on the underturf. Okay, well, maybe it's got to be less tines. Okay, let's try that. And then, okay, well, that doesn't work. So maybe let's 3D print something and maybe make it arched on the bottom and see if that comb works. Okay, well, that kind of works. Maybe we can try a couple different versions of that. And then maybe the leaves can fall into the back. We added these little round balls on the front of the tips because then it pushed the blades of grass out and then they came back together and then it would drop the leaves in and that worked pretty good. Um, and then we tried it on a snow shovel, and that kind of sucked because of the balance positioning of where the handle was. Um, Kind of come around to like this rubber tine version, and I'm not going to show you the final version because this is going to be published live, and I'm not going to invalidate any trademark stuff that I might be going. um, but it's been a fun project to like try to solve this problem. But I think I have solved it with my latest version. I have another project that's been super fun. I take a daily pill for hypothyroidism, and I have a little plastic pill case, and I interact with this thing daily, and I kind of hide it in my drawer, and it's kind of like an embarrassment, right? So I was like, how do I create something that's super cool that I want to interact with daily? And so I started doing some sketches. I started working with this tool, Viscom. It's an AI product generation tool. So if anyone hasn't played with that yet, I highly recommend trying to. That was my sketch, and that's what it created based on my prompting. So try it out, especially if you're doing product design. And then you can feed it reference and you can feed it all kinds of stuff, and it comes up with all kinds of crazy ideas. So um, but this product, I have like six different versions of this one. I have 3D printed one of them, and it's pretty dang cool. I like it. It's sitting on my countertop right now, so I've been interacting with it daily, and I'd love to see it get out there in the market sometime. Extra tips: networking. Build relationship equity. Uh, if you have something to offer someone else, provide it. You know, give up whatever resources you have without giving up too much, obviously. Keep learning, continue reading, talk to random people, and sincerely listen. This is the biggest thing. I hear a lot of people talk, but I don't hear a lot of people listening. Only consume media that makes you think. Um, Learned how to accept compliments. I was not great at this. I was always like, someone would give me, "Oh, you're really good at art. You're really good at art," and I'd be like, "Oh yeah, yeah." But like in my head, there was always somebody who was better, and I had to just take, time to be accept that someone was giving me a compliment and that was okay. So that took a long time. Find a mentor. Find three, find 20. Doesn't matter. Try to build a mutual relationship. Don't be afraid to fail. You always learn something. I failed plenty of times, learned something every single time. Average age of an entrepreneur, a successful entrepreneur, is 45. I liked this article. This was cool. Help gives me hopeful that there's still time. Uh, you know, and here's some books that I would highly recommend. These are some of my favorites as of recent. Um, this will be recorded, but you guys can screen grab this one if you want. Um, This is these are the podcasts that I listen to. These ones are about coming up with ideas and just random economic things. And typically, when I'm listening to these, I'll come up with more ideas, which is kind of fun. And then if people don't just love or hate your work, then you just haven't done all that much. So I love this quote. If you can create some emotional connection, then that's what it's all about, right? Want to thank everybody for appreciate you joining. I want to thank my wife and kids and my brother for helping me develop a bunch of crazy ideas that I keep coming up with, and my mentors, people who've continued to help me and push me towards where I needed to be today. So, yeah. So now we can do questions. Let's do questions.
All right, good deal.
I can stop talking.
Excellent. Stephen, before we jump to the chat, or should we jump to the chat first for
Well, I
questions?
have a
Did you have
question.
any?
I'll start with the question first. Wow, Philip, if I'm a creative person coming up with product ideas, let's say in the kitchen category, and I'm pretty good at it, and my sell sheets are great, my prototypes are pretty good, I'm very committed to it. What do you think if I went out and asked a company, hey, you've seen my work, is there anything I can do for you? Is that a good approach to maybe get some freelance work?
I wouldn't say why not. Uh, I haven't done it because of my contracts with companies don't allow me to do it. But if you were a freelancer and you wanted to try to build some, you know, relationship equity, with a company, how can I help you is always a great way to do an intro.
Yeah, when I first started out, I did a lot of freelance work and I just showed them my work and then I said the same thing. How can I help you? I'm available. And sure enough, the door was opened. It was pretty simple technique. I don't think a lot of inventors think of it that way. To pay the bills while you're waiting for your ship to come in.
Being a graphic designer, there was always an opportunity to earn income. You could go to the local, Mexican restaurant and redesign their menu and then bring it to them and be like, hey, I just redesigned your menu. Can I have $100, or free food, like there was always opportunity to,
Oh,
make money being creative or do trades. I can't,
that's
I
great.
can't, how many things I traded by painting cars or motorcycles, got hookups on stuff.
That's great. Thank you.
Madeline, do you have some? I think Serena's raising her hand. Stephen, you want to let Serena ask her question?
Sure.
I can unmute her.
Absolutely.
Let's see.
Thank you. I appreciate that so much.
There you
Philip, I
go.
really appreciate all the time that you took to present this to us. It's a lot of great information. But one very particular question I have is when do you stop like I have a problem where I don't know when to stop, when to be satisfied with and that was also to Stephen,
Yeah.
also into like, it's so hard to say I've done enough enhancing and improving and all the like bells and whistles on it. So that's what keeps me from actually like pursuing a lot of my products because I'm just not satisfied. Thank you.
Yeah. I suffer from a similar thing. I think most of us perfectionists do. I think at some point you have to just take that leap when you're close to feeling comfortable with it. The Kickstarter model was awesome because you could test and learn, and put it out there, by showing the minimal viable product and a prototype and be like, here, this is how it's going to work and this is how it's going to fit in your life. And maybe you didn't have all of the other shelf sheets and stuff figured out at the time, but you could put it out there and do that. I mean, I think that's where this product licensing thing comes in too. Is like, Steven said an interesting thing when I met with him is he's like, I was a no collector. Like, go out there and be a no collector, like, put your heart out there and be like, this isn't a reflection of you. It's a reflection of something you did. And separating those two things, like, because you put so much time in something and it just like it feels like it's your baby, right? Like, and someone's telling you your baby's ugly. You're like, no, my baby's great.
Madeline, do we have some questions from the chat?
Yeah,
Thank you,
I think we
Serena.
I think we have tons of great questions. I'll be selfish as I look for my next one and get my answered. I thought it was wonderful how you spoke to the importance of mentorship, and it stood out to me that yes, you're a social person. The anecdote about getting that work in the airport, I feel like, is super memorable. I'm wondering if your mentors today are part of your employer and if or not, and if they're not, if you could offer any advice about maybe identifying and nurturing some of those opportunities, because I work for a small company and sometimes I feel like I could really benefit from having some more mentors and feel a little bit at a loss of how to go about that.
So there's tools out there to find mentorship now, where there weren't tools out there before. There's websites that offer you to do paid mentorship, with people, and you can kind of
Okay.
test out, who's going to work and who's going to fit with you. I I don't know. I have not joined that. I have a friend who does it, and he's offering advice to people. How I've done it is I have mentorship at work. We have a mentorship program. I seek a mentor in a position where something I don't know much about. And so I will try to be like, oh, okay, this person does this, and I don't know much about that. So I'm going to go learn from them. But also, if I'm challenged with something, then they can help me with that. Um,
Mm,
I've connected with, it's funny because a lot of authors are very open to being mentors.
mm,
I've connected with several other authors, and they always are open to, sharing, ideas and best practices. And, do you run across another person in another industry that you're like, that person's just a really cool person, like half the mentorship is just connecting with cool people, you know.
yeah,
Well, yeah, can
that's a
we?
great tip.
Yeah, what's really interesting about that, that's how we kind of connected.
Yeah, yeah,
It,
yeah.
I,
Steven added me on LinkedIn, and I was like, oh, cool, Forbes guy who writes for Forbes. That's cool. I didn't remember that I had read his book 6 years before. Um, and I was like, oh, hey, Steven, can you share with me your favorite article that you've written recently? Like, I want to know more about you and what you've done. And
Mm,
that's how we started, communicating, and it like kind of went down this
mm.
mutual learning kind of thing. And that's how I've engaged with people, and
well,
it's
it
worked
was
out
I'm
well.
cool
I'm
because
stealing that. I love that. That's so
Feel it,
organic.
like
They
use
reach
it,
out to you,
like.
and then yeah, that's so organic. That's nice. I like
But
it.
but here's the thing: is like I get pitched all the time.
Yeah.
Like, I can't name how many, how many emails that I get pitching me something. How many actually try to develop a relationship with me first? Um, and those are the ones I actually respond to. Like, hey,
Mhm.
I'm doing this and I need some help in this area. I tell students all the time, like, you have the golden key right now as a student, because you can just say, hey, I'm a student in this and I'm studying this. Can you tell me more about this thing that you've done? And people know that they're a student, so they're not going to ask for a job. So they're immediately more open to
Mm,
connecting. So okay,
mm,
My
pitch the
little
student.
addition to that is, of course, you have companies like InventRight that Steve and I run. And we mentor people to license, and it's a paid program. But if you're looking for somebody where it's not a paid program, you have to be willing to get a no. So you might need to ask five people you respect to be your mentor in some way. It can be a little scary sometimes because they're like, "What does that mean? Like 10 hours a week?" But you might get four no's and then you get a yes. So you have,
yeah,
but if you just ask one person, that's not enough volume.
I also think that it's not just like diving into a mentorship piece. Like, there's a couple
yeah.
articles out there of like,
Right.
hey, can you be my mentor? Like, no, it's like,
After
Not the
you've
right question.
established,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yes, yes.
I I think if you start out by asking someone's opinion,
Mm,
I think everybody has an opinion. But what I
mm,
was really interested in when I met Philip was that he was in the creative world, and I was fascinated by how does that work for him? What is he reading? What is he listening to? And he was sharing the podcast, and right away I was started. I was he brought me into his world, and that was opening doors that I hadn't opened before, and I was able to share it with my group. So it was a great exchange of just that world of something we love. That
mm.
common interest, I think, is very powerful.
Yeah, if you can go with that mutual sharing and like, hey, I read this book. I think you'd like this.
Hmm,
Or
I
hey,
like
I
that.
read your book and here's the key insights that I took away from it. I'd like to discuss this piece in more detail. Like, tell me about how you came to that theory, topic, discussion, conclusion.
It's a very
Yeah,
flattering message to receive. You're
so,
saying, I spent time with you, on you. I thought about your ideas.
Right?
That's so flattering.
yeah, and that's a better time to ask for them to mentor you in some way than you just don't know this person at all and you're just reaching out. Can you be my mentor? That's a little awkward. It's probably
Mhm.
not going to work.
Philip, I have a question for you that I've asked a lot of creative people, and they always stumble with this question. That's why I'm going to ask you. I don't think you
I'm pulling up AI right now. No.
how do you had mentioned that sometimes when you're paid to be creative, you've got to come up with an idea.
Yep.
So I know you have tools to spark that creativity.
Yep.
And most creative people that make a living by that have ways to come up with ideas instantly, maybe during the day, but constantly come up with new ideas. How do you do it?
It's the resources that you surround yourself with, the books, the articles, the podcasts, the media, you know, I where social media is out there, it's what you follow and what you consume. Does it make you think? I said that, you know, as one of the key learnings is don't consume media that doesn't make you think. Like, you know, I have a list, we call it scrap. It's like all design inspiration that I've pulled off the internet. It's basically my personal Pinterest board. And I keep it and it's organized by topic. So I have horror, photography. I have product design stuff. I have um, all things that I thought were cool at some point.
Hmm.
And so when I'm stuck, like I'll go back to that, or I'll go to a book that I keep on, for graffiti. It just depends on what topic you're trying to fix. Like I have a book on airplane nose art from the 1940s. That's
Hmm.
such a cool book. I have a book on wave dynamics, photography of wave dynamics. The way that waves and smoke interact and what patterns they
Mm,
make is so cool. It's so cool. Like I would love to imitate nature in some of the stuff that, we're creating.
beautiful.
Yeah,
Um,
I just want to say what's interesting about what Philip just said. He's collecting these things, these little dots, I call them. You collect these little points of things you like. And if you collect enough of them, you can always draw upon them. And sometimes you can connect different dots to create something brand new. And I think a lot of creative people have learned to collect those type of images, experiences, so you can always draw upon it. So I think it has to do with being really curious too.
I
mm,
also think there's an importance to uh, being just with your thoughts.
Hmm.
Like if you're always looking at your phone, you're always looking at something, then you're not just being with this. This is what makes those connections. So just find time to sit there. And there's a book, The Road Less Stupid, and he's like, just find time to think, and you sit there and think. And he's got all methods around how to do that. And he's like, I just sit there for 45 minutes and I have a pen and a paper and I just think. It's like, okay, well,
Mhm.
I have a method to the madness, but sometimes I it drives my wife crazy, but I'll drive in the car with no radio, nothing, and it'll just be a quiet and silent and just driving. And I'm like, this is like heaven for me. Like I'll drive to Vegas. It's 3 hours. Like I love that drive through the desert. I've came up with so many ideas driving through the desert, looking at beautiful area. Like
I think Thomas Edison, he used to
taking
sit in
notes,
his
that's a problem. While you're driving, but
Thomas Edison used to sit in his big leather lounging chair, I think, and he put a pool ball in his hand and he would almost fall asleep to get into a completely relaxed state. to come up with ideas. And then if he fell asleep, the pool ball would fall out of his hand and wake him up, and then he'd do it all over again. And so that's that relaxed state. It could be the shower, could be driving, could
The
be,
subconscious, there's a power to the subconscious for sure.
yeah, interesting. Madeline, do we have any more questions before we do the breakout
We have
rooms?
tons more questions. I would love to get to at least a couple.
You want a rapid fire? Let's rapid fire.
Yeah, I feel for Harry. I want to ask Harry's question. What would you suggest to someone who's shy to get their ideas out?
Hmm.
uh, Find methods that can get them out there for you. The You don't have to be necessarily the person that's pitching it. You can record a video. You can, use AI voices now to record a video. If you don't like listening to your voice, there's methods to creating content that pitch the idea for you, and then all you have to do is make the connection with the person and either try to get in the same room with them or have a call, right? And and I think that you can create content that helps you sell it without you being the one going. When they start asking you questions, then you're going to freeze up. But knowing your costs and knowing your MOQs and knowing all of the questions that they might ask, if you have an answer for the questions that they might ask, then you're going to be fine.
Hmm.
Or just come
Next
back with
one.
that. I'll get back to you.
That works. I love this question. How do you get into flow states, Philip?
Read A Stealing Fire. So that's the book I'd recommend for that. It's his research on how everybody else does it. I do it by anything that's adrenaline seeking. So uh, if I hurl myself down a mountain at 31 mile an hour, yes, please. If I go surf, that works. And then designing. If I can get into the creative state where I'm creating, then it works. But sometimes it's hard.
Sure. Um, okay, final question. It's from Juan. What keeps you going?
Ooh, I love learning. I love I love that I can connect with people and share ideas, and I can pass information along and maybe change the way somebody thinks, maybe influence the way somebody thinks, maybe help somebody. And I feel like that's that. That and the family. Family is awesome. So I love my two boys, and they're the joy that keeps me going.
We are going to, I'm going to invite Kevin. We're not going to introduce him quite yet, but we're just going to get him in there. Kevin's going to be part of our breakout room. He's a patent agent, and him and Madeline are going to be in a separate breakout room to do some questions. So we won't introduce him quite yet, but I want to bring him at least on camera. So there we go. Hey, Kevin, how you doing? Um,
Hi,
so
hi,
Stephen,
hi, Kevin.
Steven's gonna head out. Steven, so you wanna say
Yeah,
your goodbye? Any final thoughts on Philip's presentation?
yes, I sure do. Thank you so much. Philip, thank you so much for inspiring me and others tonight.
You're very welcome. I appreciate the time
It's
and the opportunity.
yeah, to kind of look behind the curtain a little bit on someone that's doing remarkable work and how they got there and their passion for it and their love for it. It resonates that you didn't get here by accident. You got there by hard work, but also just loving what you do and being curious along the way. And it really shows those are some really great traits to have. So thank you so much for doing that.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you, Stephen.